What up? What up? Hope everyone is doing well this morning. Hopefully, less technical difficulties than yesterday, but we'll make progress. I think I have a lot of stuff figured out, so that is good news. Hope everyone is doing well. STM Surge, Deaton, Cryptus, STM Surge. Good to see everyone this morning. Definitely some big news in terms of John Deaton. We'll definitely get into that. RPM, good to see you. Fire Dog, what's up? It's kind of nice going live a little earlier because you definitely do get some people who typically couldn't make the streams because of time difference. So you do get a new grouping of people, which is awesome. Mary Cox, good to see you. Josh Stivers, Montana, what up? What up? Tomato Pete, always great to have you. Yeah, no, this is awesome. Cool. All right, I think I have the live stream mostly set up at this point. Let me finish up one quick little thing. Brandon, TK. All right, I'll throw on this for a second and see if we have audio this morning. We should. That's crazy. There's no sound. Everything on my side says there's sound. Oh, all right. Next time. It's not the end of the world. I love how I prefaced it in saying, "All right, it should be good now," and now I still don't have sound. You guys are good. We'll get it going. It's a little baffling, but you killed it on Vet's face with the devs yesterday. Interesting debate. Learned a lot. Yeah, that was a ton of fun. It's always nice to be able to go on one of those spaces and sort of talk about those things. I've been surprised. I've been surprised on some of the pushback in terms of developers to hooks. Like I understand the communication issue between Ripple and some of those developers, but it's important to understand like Ripple is not some party who can predict the future, right? Ripple has to go based off of what they see in the market, and that is constantly changing. So if David Schwartz is constantly monitoring whether or not hooks is a good idea, then that's going to be an issue on his conviction to build out these things moving forward. So it's very important that Ripple is perfectly aligned with how they're moving forward and kind of the overall impact on the main chain itself. And we want to make sure that that is actively being monitored. So I think in terms of Ripple miscommunicating things, I think it's important to realize that Ripple has to make sure that they are making decisions in a way in a way that's going to be in the best interest of everyone. And they can't just be pushing things without fully knowing the implication of what it might do. So I don't know. It's crazy. I don't think we can think that Ripple can magically predict the future. I think it's important to realize that Ripple is a fluid, dynamic organization, and the exact way in which they move forward, obviously, they're just going to have to do their best on a lot of it. Okay, we might have this figured out. Yeah, so I think let's see. Yeah, we'll mess around with that at a different moment. We'll take our win that at least I know the issue now. I do know the issue. I just haven't figured out how to necessarily solve it yet, but that's a different one. I don't know, Mickle was an early bird. Oh, yeah, well, got to switch it up at some point. And honestly, the show is always meant to be a market open show. Obviously, when I was working full time, that was difficult to get to work. But I mean, overall, the goal of the show is to be able to go over everything important happening in the markets. And we want to have an update on exactly what's happening and what we should prepare for the rest of the day. So that's the overall goal of the show moving forward. Right now, we are obviously watching a pretty big tech sell off that we'll have to keep our eye on moving forward. But what's Deaton saying? Yeah, so I think David Schwartz like literally doesn't know, which is perfectly understandable. So I think he thinks it's possible that smart contracts could hurt the XRP ledger for payments, but I think he's more just saying let's not push it before we know the answer to that. And I think that's the smart decision. I don't think the smart decision is to just push smart contracts and hope it goes well. Like I think you have to be prudent when it comes to these things. And I think that's one of the obvious reasons why obviously they are not just going to push it as some people wanted. So I don't know. I'm a little surprised that people are turning this into such a controversy. Actually, I'm not surprised because it's the XRP community. I think the bigger thing is I think people are just bored, and when people are bored, they find drama, and this is an easy thing to find drama in. Yeah, definitely some great buying opportunities today. We're going to jump into the charts in a minute. Just waiting for everyone to roll in. Um, we will jump into all the charts in a second. Take a look at what market open is really looking like. Uh, testing. Uh, community complains with no info, and then the community complains where there is info. Yeah, David Schwartz jumped into this. Let's take a look at David's response. He did do a correction to a lot of the stuff going on. So David said, seems like there's confusion over the programmability blog we posted out yesterday. Let me put out some clear points. Ripple simply cannot and absolutely does not want to unilaterally change the XRP ledger. The blog post is saying that we see the value in bringing programmability to the XRP ledger mainnet, in addition to what's already happening with the EVM sidechain. And making this a priority now, we are committed to putting out a design proposal for the community to review instead of coming out with a proposal already baked or intent was to be transparent and show we'll now be focusing internal resources, priorities, our due diligence, and come back to the community with our thoughts. Okay. So I mean, off the start, I mean, it just to me that seems logical, right? Ripple's just saying, "Hey, we're not sure where we stand on this, but you now know that we are now investigating these things and looking to see the impact in which hooks might have on the network for smart contracts." And I mean, once again, I think this is the right pragmatic approach in terms of how to approach something like this. So, I mean, all that makes sense. Why the sudden change? As many pointed out, I focused on fixed functionality for the XRP ledger and EVM sidechain at Apex earlier this year. I genuinely didn't see how smart contracts on mainnet would work without turning the XRP ledger into a different chain. I had convos in the past few weeks with Orchestra Finance and others in the community that made me recognize that programmability on mainnet can work if key challenges are addressed, ledger bloat, TPS, and bugs exploits. I think the best way to mitigate these risks is to take small steps that lead to the right direction. And I think it's great to have historical data on how Hooks has worked on Zaha. I fully acknowledge that plenty of smart contract, many of smart minds can come to a conclusion where programmability makes sense on mainnet earlier. But why now? Besides the above, we also felt it made sense to share our thinking ahead of the XRP community gathering in Korea and Japan this week because it's an important in-person chance to discuss programmability. This is honestly the only reason for the timing, and there's no hidden agenda. We will continue to be transparent about our thinking. We are committed to regular community calls, design reviews with external community members, blog posts explaining considerations throughout the process for any designs we propose. Okay. I mean, like it's like whenever David Schwartz talks, it's like so measured and reasonable. It's like, yeah, all of that makes sense. I mean, to me, it seems like the biggest thing is probably stated here. So Ripple does not want to unilaterally control the XRP ledger. I think that's what some of the devs are feeling. I think it's important to realize that just because the XRP ledger is decentralized doesn't mean that some players aren't going to have more power than others. Like, obviously, Ripple has a lot of power over the network, and I think that diminishes over time, but it doesn't make it not decentralized just because Ripple has a lot of power. The other thing we got to talk about real quick is John Deaton's big win. So massive shout out to John Deaton. This is a very, very, very important step in the right direction. John Deaton smoked the competition. I don't know if you guys saw the polling, but John Deaton had won in like the first 3 minutes. So definitely really cool to see, and really cool to see Metalaw Man too, really coming to the support of John Deaton throughout this entire thing. Metalaw Man has been consistently putting on fundraisers for Deaton and a whole bunch of other stuff, and which is very, very cool to see kind of him extending his arm to help John Deaton throughout this entire thing. I can't imagine how much work this has been for Deaton. So, just have to say, I mean, it's absolutely incredible that John Deaton is going through with all this and kind of what he's doing on that front. And Metalaw Man, obviously, helping out with the entire thing is definitely great to see. Metalaw Man also has a lawsuit against New York in terms of New York ungreenlisting XRP as one of the assets that can be traded there. So Metalaw Man is actually doing some pretty sneaky things behind the scenes that are very beneficial to the XRP community. Good morning, Chadwick. Good to see you. The smart cats didn't know how smart contracts would help. No, it's not that Joel Katz didn't think that smart contracts would help. Joel Katz just didn't know whether or not it's worth the risk. Because here's the thing. And I think a lot of people need to understand this. Like, hold on, we'll do an old classic Mickle drawing real quick. So I think this will help explain the smart contract conundrum a little bit and really get to the most important thing of like, why is there even a debate on smart contracts? Because I think I'm getting all these trading views. Got to get rid of these ads, man. So I think this is the big thing in terms of smart contracts. All right. So you either have like the XRP ledger here, and you have no smart contracts. And then what you do is you just say, all right, no smart contracts. So we'll just do a side chain to a chain with smart contracts. We'll just do that as SC. So the idea is that if this was like the ETH side chain, then you could just keep doing this. So you just have the XRP ledger, no smart contracts, and you just keep on bridging to other side chains with smart contracts. Now, as long as you make XRP the native currency on each one of these chains, then you essentially have a scenario in which the XRP ledger has smart contracts. Now, they're not native on main chain, but like you still have the ability to access smart contracts on the XRP ledger. Now, this is what I actually really liked. I actually really like this method of doing it, because then you take all the risk off of main chain, you do the computations and advanced stuff on side chains, and you never really have to worry about whether or not these smart contracts could do anything detrimental to the mainnet. But I think what David Schwartz wants to do, and ultimately I think this is a good strategy, is I think David Schwartz wants to keep doing that, but have on the XRP ledger itself, will do LSC, so light smart contracts. So very limited programmability on the XRP ledger itself. And then if you do need advanced programmability, then you come over to one of these side chains. I think I think that works as well. So I think that works as well. I think the safer method is just to not do smart contracts on main chain. But obviously, if we have the ability to monitor the smart contracts and make sure that they're working properly, then there's a very low risk of it ultimately doing anything negative to main chain. So that's personally how I see that playing out. I don't worry that much about the risk, as long as they're light smart contracts and as long as David Schwartz is worried about it. Why not bring back Codius? So that's the thing about Codius, is like I feel like Codius is being used in just a lot of different ways right now. So like it's very possible Codius's technology is being used in something like Evernode, and Vision's evolved. Like at this point, Codius is very old, so I don't think it necessarily makes sense for them to bring back Codius as it stands. Like maybe there's another derivative of what Codius is now, but it's important to realize, like at this point, Codius is pretty old, so I don't think it makes sense just to expect them to bring back Codius and be like, oh, here it is, like everything's fixed. Now we have Codius. Like, I think there's more to it in terms of how easy it is to just bring something like that back. Guys, make sure to drop a like on the stream as well. Super helpful. Really appreciate everyone doing that. RPM, how's your AMM strategy going? Yeah, I would love to hear about anyone's current AMM strategy. AMMs are still something that I deem as kind of not worth getting involved in terms of the risk associated. But if anyone is having good results in the AMM, man, I would love to know about it. RPM says he's not using the AMM at all. Yeah, so here we'll do a little bit of an AMM segment real quick. My problem is with the AMM, it's like I just don't see any other high quality assets to use in the AMM. I don't know what I would really want to hold against XRP. And then we've talked about this extensively, but if my theory, right, is that XRP is kind of around, if my theory is you have XYZ and you pair that against XRP, oh, that's some good writing. And your theory is that XRP is going to go up in price. Well, then in order to keep the value the same, then you lose XRP. So, total. Oh, this might be one of my worst drawings yet. Whatever. Total XRP goes down. So, I think that's the biggest risk with the automated market rate maker right now. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it makes sense to me to risk your underlying position in XRP simply for the yield in the short term. So maybe that changes, but you're really focused. Like to me, it just seems like the automated market maker is more a tool for market makers specifically, and there's a lot less of a, hey, I'm just going to leave money here to compound, which I think some people wanted that to be what the automated market maker is. I just don't see that being what it is right now. I think you essentially need you need some kind of program that runs on the automated market maker to help people maintain control liquidity and make it easier for people to do it without having significant risk of things like impermanent loss. So I still do think that's kind of gatekeeping people. The talk of X right now is still definitely hooks. Guys, make sure you have a second, just exit out of the live chat real quick, drop a like on the stream. This is going to be a really, really easy way to make sure more people see the stream. We really want more and more people to be able to learn about XRP, learn about the XRP ledger, and learn about crypto as a whole. That's really one of the main purposes of why we do these streams. So any help to make sure that people are learning about these things is absolutely amazing. Okay, and I want to share one thing coming up real quick here. This is probably pretty good news. So maybe this is our best indicator yet. We've been waiting on something good. Jim Cramer turns bearish on Bitcoin and crypto. So maybe this is the thing we've needed. Honestly, though, typically, if you just look at him as a contra indicator, like he normally gets excited about things when things are going up a lot and there's a lot of exuberance in the market, and then he pulls back when he thinks things are boring. So, if this resembles mainstream sentiment of the industry, maybe that means we're right around the corner from that moment coming in which this market really gets away from itself. Roger said Ripple isn't moving smart contracts to mainnet unless it works without affecting its core purpose. David has made that clear. It's a discussion. Nothing has been done. Yeah. So I do think Ripple's seriously considering it because look, this created a lot of drama the first time Ripple walked away from smart contracts, and I don't think they're going to be putting out this proposal without being pretty sure that smart contracts are on the way. If Jim Cramer says it's the opposite. So if Jim Cramer says we're going into a bear market for crypto, it means bull market for crypto. Yeah, so I don't think Ripple really would have proposed it unless they were pretty certain that it was ultimately going to have a good chance of getting passed, because they don't want to create the drama again, right? This has already been so much drama. It was a drama in the beginning when they first started talking about hooks on the main chain, and then now this whole thing, like, they need to be certain that they're at least very much considering the possibility of bringing hooks to main chain prior to doing anything that's going to upset people even more. Oh, Roger, Ripple has been studying smart contracts for a very long time. Actually, the XRP ledger, Vitalik got his idea for, not a lot of people know this, Vitalik got his idea for Ethereum working at Ripple and looking at what Ripple wanted to do with smart contracts. So Ripple understood in the early days that smart contracts were going to create this issue on the chain where things were going to get more expensive and less efficient. So what Ripple did was said, hey, you don't need everyone to have the ability to program a smart contract into the chain whenever they want. You just need the ability for the chain to pick a certain attribute that the chain thinks is important and then be able to input that attribute to main chain. So what Ripple has really decided to do was say, hey, we all vote on an amendment or a smart contract for the chain that everyone abides by, things like the automated market maker. Now, the difference with Ethereum and what Ripple wants to do now is they're looking to make it customizable for anyone to build a smart contract on chain. That is where I think it's a little more debatable on whether or not that could have damaging effects on the chain, because you could essentially build anything And if you have people building anything, then you have more opportunities for the chain to get clogged up and more slower execution scenarios. So Ripple has definitely studied this extensively. I don't know how much each design differs from each other and how much Ripple has looked at each design. So I know Hooks is substantially different. I know Hooks has a lot of advantages to it over other smart contracts. Defense said, I think people are really underestimating the EVM Axler connection by the end of the year. There are smart contracts already guaranteed just off chain. Yeah, and Deaton ends like, I don't like, the funny thing is like realistically, like I don't even think it matters if they're off chain or not, because Ripple did something very important here, which is something that I wish they did with the Zaha network, but whatever. What Ripple did is they made XRP the native asset on the EVM sidechain. And because of that, even though it's a bridge to the XRP ledger, if you had a DeFi application built on this EVM sidechain, it's still going to lock up XRP. So it's still going to lock up XRP on the EVM sidechain for a DeFi application. So it's hard for me to understand outside of security why this model isn't just as good, if not better. Yeah, so Roger, what Ripple's looking at right now is a light smart contract. So they're looking to do smart contracts with less functionality than EVM smart contracts. So yeah, XRP can be moved to a sidechain. So that's exactly what they're doing on the EVM sidechain. XRP is still the native asset. So if you have all the things going on the EVM sidechain, XRP can still be used there. XRP is still consumed. And therefore, from a user perspective, outside of the increased functionality, you almost don't even realize, like, the biggest problem with sidechains not using XRP as the native asset is it siphons value away from XRP. So the asset that the protocol is centered around kind of acts as like that central liquidity. And if you start creating side chains with your own asset on that side chain, then it just takes away from XRP's role as liquidity and further divides liquidity across the network. If you have XRP as the asset on both main chain and the side chain, then you have the same liquidity being used on both chains, which is ultimately what you want, because you want to concentrate that liquidity to XRP being the main liquidity asset. So XRP can be used on the side chains. Now, it's important to realize, like, XRP itself, technically it's not the same XRP, but it would still have the impact on the price and still have the impact on the liquidity. King says he likes to like the stream earlier. Guys, massive thank you to everyone who likes to stream. And Silver Days, good to see you, brother. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Always great to see you in the chat, Silver Days. Appreciate you. Messi, good to see you. Just a million trading view ads this morning, I guess. So do institutions need smart contracts? That, Roger, you are killing it with the questions this morning. So institutions need smart contracts, but I don't know if they need smart contracts on main chain. Let's talk about this real quick. This is a great question. If you have institution A, let's face it, institution A is not going to be running their their infrastructure on the XRP ledger. They're going to be doing it with their own private chain. So institution A has their own private chain. So institution B has its own private chain. both of these chains likely have smart contracts, right? Most of these side chains probably both have smart contracts, but they're walled gardens. So you have the institution A walled in, institution B walled in, and these are walled gardens. The goal is obviously to use XRP to connect these two institution systems. Now, XRP, I don't believe necessarily has to have smart contracts on this institutional level, because XRP is just acting as the liquidity to connect these two. And so long as institution A has smart contracts and institution B has smart contracts, and the XRP ledger is just the liquidity connecting those institutions to one another, then because they have their own internal smart contracts, they're not relying on the XRP ledger to have the smart contract functionality. Now, does that mean there aren't scenarios in which smart contract functionality would help? Definitely not. There's definitely scenarios in which the XRP ledger smart contracts could be used in the flow we just showed there in a way that's beneficial. But I think at its core, smart contracts are not necessarily critical to how institutions are going to operate, because no one should expect institution A or institution B to be building their products directly into the XRP ledger. That's unrealistic. And the reason for that is look, it doesn't make any sense for them to be visualizing all their internal transactions. They need to have things private. I think most people are in an agreement that if Bank of America was to build on the XRP ledger, then they wouldn't be running their corporate treasury on the XRP ledger. That would be internal on their own blockchain, and then they would hook up to the XRP ledger for public transactions. So smart contracts in their own internal system that hooks up to the XRP ledger. XRP doesn't need smart contracts. XRP investors need smart contracts for XRP gas token to gain value, to make it investment asset and not an investment liability. RPM, you're good, man. Let's see what else we got. Thank you. I'm glad you like the studio, Felton. Still getting everything set up. I'm supposed to be able to throw on Bloomberg here and do stuff in the background and then switch back over so we can kind of get an update on market open. But that whole feature has been being extremely difficult. And as I review it, it's being difficult for very obvious reasons because I just have it configured wrong. But we shall get there eventually. My biggest issue is I'm just not getting my OBS video out, volume output. Communications. It's going to take a YouTube video to figure this out. We'll get it next time. Adoption. Hold on. Shannon, I don't know if smart contracts are important for institutions. I think you could make the argument smart contracts are not important to institutions. Just because institutions will do it all internally. Like they don't need smart contracts on main chain. I don't think. Obviously, there's going to be different applications, but The reason why you do want smart contracts is because obviously new cool things will be able to be built that enhance the functionality of XRP and provide institutions tools they might not know they need. So, look, if you can make smart contracts work on the XRP ledger in a way that doesn't compromise the chain, then there's no reason not to do that. Like, it's only going to make the XRP ledger more powerful. The question I think is really at hand is, does it make sense to be cautious and pragmatic about it? Which I think that's where some of the community disagrees. Some of the community thinks you just have to hit the ground running, do things as fast as possible, and not test things in the background. And I just prefer to go down the route of testing. King Cell said it took Ethereum almost 3 years, maybe longer, to go from proof of work to proof of stake. I would assume adding smart contracts to mainnet will take some time. King Celis, great comment. I will say, though, not a lot of people know this. Hooks has been being worked on since 2000, or since 4 years ago. So there's been a lot of testing and a lot of effort going into hooks in the background. So David Schwartz said that he believes that if they do find a solution, it could be implemented in a couple months. I do think hooks has been tested enough, but I think it's been tested enough to implement pretty quickly, but I think they need to come to an answer on whether or not they feel comfortable implementing it. Ripple might buy PolySign. I don't think they will, but possible. Let experimentation take place elsewhere. Move to mainnet only after plenty of time and testing. Yeah, that's what I think. I think that's the smart, pragmatic approach. But my opinion doesn't matter in this. Guys, make sure to take a second to like the stream. We have 600 people on X, 230 on YouTube. You guys are absolutely incredible. The more people who get pushed this stream, the more people who can learn about XRP and some of these more advanced things we're looking to implement in the digital asset space. So really appreciate everyone taking the time to like the stream. Super, super, super helpful. What's the question here? Deaton on Fox? Is he on Fox? I haven't seen it. What's the probability of Deaton's win against Warren? I think it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be difficult. With that said, I think John Deaton's one of the few people who could do it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing with Deaton. Everyone said there was no way John Deaton was going to be able to make it into the Ripple SEC case. He absolutely did, and he ended up being the reason that we, as XRP holders, got out of the Ripple SEC case with clarity on XRP. If you said that to anyone prior to that happening, like, no one thought it was realistic at all. No one thought it was realistic at all that John Deaton could make that happen. So that's what's important to understand here. No one thought it was possible, and yet he was able to do it. I think it's the same thing with this Elizabeth Warren thing. Is it going to be easy? No, I don't think so. But he's one of the few people who I think to say has a possibility to get it done. Roger said, hate to say it, but it's almost impossible en masse to beat a Democrat like Warren. I will say, though, Roger, like, I'm from the Northeast. Many of you know that. No one likes Elizabeth Warren, right? So if, like, there is someone who could be beaten, it is her. It's going to have to be a lot of the younger generation coming out and voting, I believe. But I don't think it's impossible. Oh, here's some interesting breaking news here. This is going to be interesting to a lot of people. Let me queue it up real quick, and then we'll jump into this. I think people will find this very interesting. All right, here we go. So it looks like Brad Garlinghouse is saying that weeks, not months, for the XRP Ledger stablecoin. That's very interesting. I question, I question, is it going to end up on that same October 7th date? Are we going to see October 7th kind of be the date where launches that? Um, I think it's a really interesting question, man. The last time they made a big announcement was right after the case ended. Are they going to wait to find out if the SEC is going to appeal before launching the stablecoin? I think it's possible. The SEC did throw a lot of shade at Ripple for launching the stablecoin in the case. Oh, is Paul Barron here? Yeah, absolutely, Paul Barron. Everyone said that Ripple and the XRP community would never beat the SEC. We did. On top of that, too, everyone said John Deaton was going to have no impact. He was never going to get it in the case. He did get in the case. He had probably the most important impact out of anyone. To be honest, I don't think we would have clarity on XRP if it wasn't for John Deaton. So absolutely, John Deaton can beat Elizabeth Warren, and I think he's one of the few people who has the possibility to do it. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. And I'm trying to think of things I can do. So what I want to do is I'll have to do this. I want to do like a live stream for the entire time John Deaton that voting is taking place, and we'll definitely have to figure out some way to help garner some extra support for him. My problem is whenever I talk to people about possibly voting for John Deaton, they don't live in Massachusetts. So I do have my brother there. I have my brother recruiting people. Like I said, I think John Deaton can do it. I just think we have to work together as a community to make sure that happens. And to be honest, I think some of the community support has been fantastic, but I think people have kind of stopped paying attention since the Ripple SEC case has kind of ended. Hopefully there's a way to kind of reaccelerate some of that support going into the election. Appreciate you for stopping by, Paul Barron, though. Always great to see you in the chat. Super, super cool to see you there. Wait, what? Oh, man, aka. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, appreciate you for pointing that out. See what else we got in the chat. Great questions today. Paul Barron Network, Elizabeth Warren will market John Deaton for us. She has only uttered his name once. Now she'll be forced to fight him. That's a great point. That is a really, really good point. So that's the thing, and that's really what we're going to need. I think the more, and I think you're totally spot on here, Paul. I think the more Elizabeth Warren is forced to legitimize Deaton, the better it is for Deaton, because Elizabeth Warren's supporters are never going to find Deaton, right? It's going to be very hard for people who support Elizabeth Warren to find Deaton. But the more Deaton's name is brought up by Elizabeth Warren, the more those people will be forced to find him. And I think that's ultimately going to be very good for converting people who might just be sick of her. I do believe it's true too, and let me see if I can confirm this. I believe Elizabeth Warren, even when she had her initial race, was extremely unpopular. I remember like the only reason she won was something like there wasn't even another Republican running. Um, so I know she's not popular in Massachusetts. As someone lives in the area, I know for a fact she's not popular. But at the end of the day, it's also true that some people are just going to vote for her because she's a Democrat. So Deaton challenged her to 5 debates. Yeah, well, I don't think there's going to be 5 debates, but a single debate would be awesome. Um, I think the biggest thing Deaton needs is like just fatigue on Warren, and I think there is a lot of fatigue on Warren. Massachusetts is just so liberal; it's going to be a tough fight. But if anyone can do it, it's Deaton. Massachusetts is, but I will continue to say that like Elizabeth Warren, I believe, from my own personal experience living here, is definitely falling out of favor with most of the people in the Northeast. Like there's a like most people like she's so cringy that she's really lost any like it's almost becoming like you can't support her really. Like even if you are a liberal, it's like you can't really support her. So I think she's going to lose a lot of the excitement of her voting base, and John Deaton will have a lot of excitement. I don't necessarily think that Elizabeth Warren voters are going to be voting for John Deaton. I think that's unrealistic, but I think she's going to have a lot of fatigue from her party while John Deaton has a lot of excitement. So it's all about harnessing that excitement in the right way. How long till Kamala becomes crypto friendly and copies Trump's policies to remain viable? Fire Gary Gensler proactively. So to be completely honest with you, I don't think there's any scenario in which Kamala Harris is going to fire Gary Gensler. I just think it's too obvious at this point that she's kind of just saying she's pro crypto without even being really pro crypto. Um, I just it's hard for me to see a scenario in which she actually fires Gary Gensler or makes a change like that. So I don't know. I'm not optimistic on the Democrats doing something like that. I okay, good. Someone's saying my screen was blacked out, so good. Glad that's not the case. We just got to get audio figured out. We'll get there eventually. Yeah, the audio here sounds good, but there's supposed to be a whole nother thing going on that hasn't worked. Brian says, please go and hit the likes. It really helps. Yeah, it does really help so much when you guys do that. Um, Kevin, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, no, this is the part that isn't working properly, which we'll get working. I want to have. Yeah, so I want to be able to go over there and have that audio playing desktop. I know the issue. I just haven't figured out how to do it since I'm live on stream. I haven't figured out how to fix that. We'll get it. We'll get it. It's an easy fix. Yeah, we are we bouncing? It's a perfect spot to bounce for sure. Let's take a look at the XRP price chart. We really haven't We really haven't taken a look at the XRP price chart, so we'll do that. And let's just clean up this chart real quick. Yeah, let's take a quick look at that. We'll do the Bitcoin chart. We'll do the dollar. Jump into some charts. Really appreciate you guys coming early in the morning. I really like this new time. It seems like you guys are enjoying it as well. So that's awesome. Obviously, what stinks is Kawaii Girl isn't able to make it anymore, and I felt so bad. She messaged me and she's like, "Oh, I can't make it because it's 2 in the morning." And I was like, "Well, we don't want you waking up at 2 in the morning, but that's unfortunate." So we'll still have to do some late night live streams for Kawaii Girl. Uh she's been absolutely incredible. Feel bad that she's not able to make this new early live stream, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, it's what has to happen. Do smart contracts help RLUSD? That's a good question. Probably in some way. Um, so here we go. So XRP obviously very coiled up in here, and Fire Dog made a good point. We are seeming to bounce at the perfect time here. We kind of had this candle come in here, and this is somehow this is what we've been expecting to happen, right? We're moving up onto this October 7th date. Still no appeal yet. And we just got to wait and see whether or not we ultimately do get that appeal on October 7th. But I don't know. It's always what we expected, right? We always expected XRP to trade sideways up until this appeal date. And now it's just waiting. Is that going to be the case? Is it going to come here and then get that breakout? Or is the SEC going to appeal? And then we just got to see what happens from there. Everyone's saying they miss Kawaii Girl. She'll appreciate that. I don't know. I think October 7th is a pretty significant date. Maybe people disagree on that, but the idea that this case is over and there's no appeal, I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's everything. Very soon, Kevin. Very soon. And definitely some big updates in regards to that coming soon. So uh I don't want to cover that necessarily directly on this stream, but very, very soon. Need a real move. So I don't know. We'll see. Extra long live stream October 6th and 7th. Yeah, we could do something special for the SEC appeal date because that's the date the case is really over. Like that's the case. That's the day it's dead and gone. So we still have to make it to there. I'll be getting excited if we get through September without having any issues. We get through September without an appeal by the SEC. I think things are going to be looking very, very good. Very good. October 6th is going to take forever. Wake me up. And yeah. Hey, well, guys, we've made it 4 years. So Pros and cons of buying Polysign? Do you mean of buying the company? Okay, that's an interesting question. I like that. Pros and cons of buying Polysign. And I'm assuming you mean Ripple buying Polysign, right? Unless you're unless you're thinking about it, I'm assuming you mean Ripple buying Polysign. So Polysign is very interesting technology, but the problem is they don't have users. So, um, in order, so Polysign is really a custody solution, and if there's no real users using the custody solution, then I don't know. You're just buying the tech, and because Ripple already has Medico, I don't know. I would assume that if Ripple thought the technology was going to be important enough, they would have bought it. They haven't. So it's a very good question, but Ripple's not buying Polysign. Yeah, I would agree. They would have done it already. But why Ripple wouldn't is a bigger question. Like, why wouldn't they just do it? Maybe because they were already committed to Medico. Maybe there's something in Polysign's technology they weren't a fan of, but it is a very interesting question on kind of that route they chose to take. 16 more likes to get to 200. Guys, we have 1,000 people watching, so would love to be able to get to 200 likes on the stream. Really, really, really appreciate everyone helping out on that front. Oh. All right, well, I figured out the audio stuff, so that's cool. Will Root Network be a strong catalyst for XRP? I think in a sense it will be a strong catalyst, but I think it's important to realize that like Root is a very interesting project, but when it comes down to, I don't know, it's a retail project, not institutional project. So it's a great new it's a great new retail application in order to use XRP. Is it something that I think is going to cause long-term demand like the likes of Bank of America using the XRP ledger for liquidity? No. So just different stages. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I just think it's important to realize that like uh what is it again? Already forgot the name. Root Network and Fluff World, right? Those are just going to be very different applications than a lot of the stuff Ripple is trying to build. Oh, I like this question a lot. This is a great question. Mikkel, what got you into XRP? So I was doing a lot of investing in tech in general, and that's kind of what I like to do. Um, so I was investing in tech, and I came across blockchain technology. Very quickly, I realized blockchain technology was very cool and could be useful, but I couldn't find any useful application of blockchain technology. It was a lot of Ethereum and Bitcoin stuff, and I thought Ethereum and Bitcoin were very, very interesting. But my problem with Ethereum and Bitcoin was I didn't really get why you would need Ethereum or Bitcoin when they were so much slower than a lot of the traditional processes and more expensive in some ways. So I was having a really hard time wrapping my head around that. And then obviously when I found out about XRP, uh, it was clear it solved a lot of those things. But funny enough, when I actually first started learning about XRP, I was actually watching a lot of videos from Bitcoin maxis, and very quickly I was like, oh, you can't invest in XRP. Like XRP has all these issues. And then one day my dad came to me and was like, hey, what do you think about this XRP thing? And he didn't know anything about crypto, but he just saw it on Coinbase. And I was like, all right, well, I kind of heard it's got all these issues, but I don't actually know what the issues are. So then I came into the ecosystem as being someone who's a skeptic. I was like, oh, well, there's a lot of issues with XRP, but what are those issues? And then as I continued to look into it, I was like, wait, none of these issues are real issues. They're just misunderstandings by a lot of people in the Bitcoin community. So that was kind of the thing that really helped me understand, like, this is likely something that's going to be very powerful and important. And to see a real world use case for the blockchain technology, that was the obvious thing for me that made me say, okay, this is important. It's going to continue to be important. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's another good one, Roger. I it's been you don't end up doing live streams at 7 a.m. Talking about a cryptocurrency without a bunch of crazy stories along the way. So it has been a crazy journey, but it's been so much fun. And for me, the exciting part is like, I think of this as the hard time. I think of this as like the time where like none of this is like fun and exciting. And for me, it's so fun because like there's such a long future ahead for us. Like we're at the early days, and like what this all looks like in the next 3 to 4 years, I think is anyone's guess. But I think to be able to have this group together at this early stage and kind of have these deep ideas of where we're headed, but still not be there yet is really the exciting part. Like for me, it still feels like we're in like the first or second inning of all of this. And we've got like a long journey we're to go through together as we get mass adoption. But as I see it, the hard part is really almost over with, which I'm sure a lot of people are happy to hear that. Testing. All right, let me check something real quick. Oh, we might get this. Testing, 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 testing. All right, let's see. This is my last chance at it. I think this should work.
Someone say it was growth concerns, but didn't we just get a GDP print at 3%? I mean, as inflation is down at 2.5, unemployment is still at 4.3. I mean, these are all great compared to historic averages. So, is there a real growth concern?
Yeah, there is. Look, I think
with earnings up 11%, with sales up 5 and change. I mean,
he's the bull on the desk.
Look, those are all positive things, and I don't argue with it. But I would say you've transitioned the macro trading environment over the last month or two. You were in a higher for longer environment where U.S. economic data was surprising to the upside, rate cuts were being priced out, and equity markets were being pushed higher. That changed at the end of June and into early July, where economic data is now surprising to the downside. So the market isn't trading higher for longer right now. They're trading a slowing growth environment. And when you're trading a slowing growth environment, the risk reward is very poor because you get near these borderlines where it could be hard landing, it could be soft landing. And I think what that means is growth data like the ISM becomes more impactful than it has been. We used to trade the ISM, and then for 2 years we stopped trading it because we were so worried about inflation. I think what the market's telling you is in this slowing growth environment, every growth data point just carries more importance, particularly with equities at all-time highs, valuation.
So I think that's such an interesting point, and this is what I wanted, because I knew like we would get the economic data from the news, and I'd be able to talk about it, and it would be kind of this flow, and then we could take questions on the side. So this is what we wanted. It's a great point. So right now the high interest rate environment has slowed down growth. Obviously, the point was to slow down growth. We wanted to slow things down to the point where we would be able to obviously get rid of inflation. And to get rid of inflation, to do all this, we absolutely needed to slow down growth. But now that growth is slowing down, there's a lot of different companies that are now saying, okay, things are not looking good. And now the market's pricing in a recession. So the real question is can we increase interest rates fast enough to solve the growth issue and get rid of the recession fears? Or are we going to have that recession? We're going to have interest rate drops and then come out on the other side of it with things fixed. So that is very interesting. Like the gold tie. Yeah, I don't know about the gold tie, but he's making a good point.
If you want to play it through the options market, how far do you have to look out before you really materialize those returns?
Look, I think if you're buying options now for a bullish view, you're probably looking at a 3-month sort of 25 delta call type situation. It's very hard to trade anything sub a month if you actually have a structural bullish view here, because there's just way too much kind of event risk, layered into the system right now. Will people be willing to do that? It remains to be seen. There is a bull case there. To Matt's point, there is a lot of strong economic data. Earnings are pretty positive. If, let's say, we print on the consensus on Friday, which is 165K, if you print 165 and the Fed still does a 25 basis point insurance cut, there is a good case there that you should be long equities and long small cap in that environment. The problem is if you print 125K, it's the exact opposite trade. And it's that sort of dichotomy in the markets right now, which I think is keeping risk takers very cautious.
Well, looking at the here and now, to follow up on.
Cool. I'm glad I got that working. That was such a headache, and I got it working live on stream, which is crazy. I didn't think that was actually going to work. So there we go. Audio's working. Glad it took me doing that live on stream to figure it out. But who is that guy? I like it. I'm not sure who he is. We could go back and finish his segment.
VIX 6-8 points higher in a day, and you put the VIX back to 130, and you kind of jam skew a little bit higher as well. Right now, it's going to look tactically conservative, right? And that's appropriate, I think. I think the market is right now trading event to event over the course of every week. The next 3 weeks, you have what you would consider a really important macro event. I think the market's going to have to trade that. So where is sentiment? I think a lot of risk got taken off in early August. As I mentioned, some got built back, but it got built back in a very conservative way. So I think right now it's trust but verify. You have some risk on, but you're being super, super careful about it. And you have to be really, really aware of where the landmines are.
All right, Stuart, so great to have you on a week like this one. The VIX right now camped out at 22.5. That, of course, is Citi head of U.S. equity trading strategy, Stuart Kaiser. Now, coming up, Intel's financial struggles.
Interesting. So apparently the VIX is high. Let's take a look at the VIX real quick and see what's going on there. I hadn't looked at the VIX yet. The VIX is the volatility index. So sometimes you can get some key insights, kind of what's going to happen, taking a look at the VIX. Let's 1 minute. Oh, so the VIX is definitely elevated. So as you can see here, the VIX definitely has a bit of an elevation to it. Let's zoom out real quick and take a look at what it looks like on the greater time frame. So typically after the VIX does make a big breakout, it does kind of have some volatility in the short term. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had a scenario, not like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a scenario in which the VIX kind of bounced around here a bit prior to going back down. But typically when you have a big spike on the VIX like we had, you don't see a lot more. You don't see many times after that you also break back above. Typically you get one big spike and that's kind of ripping off the band-aid, and then you don't have much after that. But it is a good call out. It looks like there is some kind of elevation on the VIX right now. So something to watch. That normally means that there's some kind of volatility inbound to the market. I think what it really is the slowing growth. I think it's slowing growth that's scaring a lot of people in the market right now. To me, that seems like the obvious reason why we would see people kind of stepping back from the market, selling, and typically that's all going to be reflected in the VIX. So guys, it looks like I might be going on the Paul Barron show October 7th, which would be really cool right after that SEC appeal. So what's our date for the next rate move? Kevin, that is a great question. It should be sometime in mid-September. I think we looked it up yesterday. I think it was on September 17th. Yep, September 17th through 18th is going to be the next Federal Reserve rate move. And then after that, we have November 6th to 7th. So that could be back-to-back rate decisions in a pretty short amount of time there. So that's let's map this. Let's map this out a bit for people. United States interest rates. So this is funny. This is a log chart, and you can see how funky the log charts get when things go to zero. But let me just take this off logarithmic. So here's the interest rate chart. As you can see, it doesn't take a genius to see that normally when rates flatten out, they come crashing back down. So that's what we're waiting for, this crash back down. The question is why does this crash back down? The question is why does this crash back down? The reason why this is likely going to crash back down is because they are terrified of a recession coming. Now, it could also crash back down because the recession is here and they're trying to prevent the recession from doing excess damage. So that's the question, right? Do we get this move down because the recession is here and it's like, oh man, we went too far? Or do we get this pull down because the Federal Reserve is able to pull rates down prior to the recession, save the economy, and we go on in a Goldilocks scenario? That's the real question. So what the answer is to that, that's a tough one. And I don't think anyone really has the answer to that. But either way, we're going into low interest rate environment. Or SEC no appeal. Yeah, no, Paul Barron show will be a lot of fun. Definitely excited for that one. It's always fun going on other people's show. On your birthday, Tomato Feet. That's awesome. Happy birthday, brother. Checking the news real quick, seeing if anything interesting is going on. It's been slow for a couple of weeks now. Been slow. And someone was asking before, yes, John Deaton did win the Republican nomination. He didn't win against Elizabeth Warren. He still needs to beat Elizabeth Warren. So just understand. Here, this is interesting. I don't know what this is yet, but Deaton sent it to me, and I wanna get some eyeballs on it. So hold up. Let me pull this up real quick. I haven't watched this yet, but it does seem interesting. It's back to the Columbia land registration on the XRP ledger. So, Deaton, if you have any specific comments on this, would love to hear it. Un momento. All right, there we go. All right, take a look at this real quick.
By nature's abundance, the
Not getting audio on it real quick. So hold on, let me take a look at it real quick. All right, of course that didn't work. Man. I already know. All right, well, we'll get to that in a second. Ripple wins any appeal. That's great reward. Yeah, so that could be a big issue for the SEC appealing. That could be a big issue for the SEC appealing, ultimately being forced to pay back that fine. Yeah, why didn't that work? Boom. Boom.
Columbia's fertile territories.
Yeah. Oh. Apple will do the craziest things to you. Apple will do the craziest things to you in terms of have their defaults for certain things. Like, I already know what the issue is here. I've dealt with this before. Apple defaults the audio settings to not follow the HDMI. So when you plug in an HDMI cord, the audio doesn't follow. So that's the issue. Man, I don't want to figure that out now. The SEC will put in escrow. The interest comes from there, not the S. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you, Roger, for that information. Here, we'll do this real quick while I figure out this. The SEC is a blind drunk person playing darts. Hope they hit something. Kinda. Stokes, you'll be on the Paul Barron. He's a great show. Yeah, I can't wait to go on the Paul Barron show. He's been killing it, man. He's been around. He's been doing this for a while. He does great interviews. It really doesn't get much better than that. So, super excited to be there, and will be really, really cool to get to go on there, and I don't know, to see where it goes. Hopefully we'll be at that point. There's going to be no appeal in the Ripple SEC case, and that's what we'll be talking about. I don't know if that's how it's going to go, but man, that would be awesome if that's ultimately what it ended up being. Here we go. Nothing can be easy, but eventually we will make it work, even if it's live on stream. All right, let's take a look. Let's see if I got it.
In a land graced by nature's abundance, the rightful ownership of Columbia's fertile territories has been long obscured by a persistent challenge. Across the globe, land registry systems are anchored in paper-based processes. This traditional approach breeds inefficiencies, risks of data loss, and a lack of transparency, often paving the way for malpractice and corruption. In Colombia, these issues are magnified. The nation's history of conflict has frequently forced its people to relocate, making reliable land ownership records not just a matter of property.
What? No, I don't want to block. I want to keep the video going. Oh, man. Things are going so successfully. Discard.
But of identity and livelihood. But change has arrived. Through a collaboration between Ripple, the Colombian government, and Peersys comes XRP Stamp, a robust data notarization platform that harnesses the power of XRPL blockchain, a decentralized secure haven for information. With this innovative solution, the Agencia Nacional de Tierras safeguards land registry titles securely on the XRPL blockchain. Now, for the first time in history, Colombian citizens can ensure their land ownership across time. Imagine the ease and security for citizens. With just their phone, they can instantly verify their land ownership. Each certificate is QR enabled, offering a digital gateway to validate authenticity in real time. Gone are the days of paper-based uncertainty. XRP Stamp transitions land registry to digital copies securely stored on the blockchain. Immutable, persistent, and reliable. No more uncertainty. No more displacement. XRP Stamp empowers Colombian society by securing their roots for generations to come.
Interesting. Very cool. Appreciate you sharing that, Deaton. It's cool to see some of the different ways of using blockchain technology. I don't know specifically how land registry will tie into the XRP ledger as a whole, but very, very cool to see different initiatives being put forward on the XRP ledger, and being able to create an entire system that meets a lot of different people's needs is obviously going to be important moving forward here. As it's important to realize that a lot of the stuff we see on a daily basis is all tied together in terms of real estate and a lot of the other different parts of the financial system. So it's important that Ripple and people building behind the XRP ledger are able to kind of tackle a lot of these different things. Firedog, this is such a big issue in America right now. The last 2 to 3 years, this fraud is the newest, hottest fraud in the US right now. I could go a lot into. Oh, Firedog, very interesting. I know Firedog. I know you're very involved in real estate, so it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see that that you recognize the issue. Roger said, "What's that award behind you?" That one right there. That's for that was for my time at Medtronic and doing launching our surgical robot. So that's what that was. Oh, this? Oh, I don't know. That's just something random. Little studio, little eye candy studio booster. That's funny, Roger. Okay, so market's just opened. Let's take a look at what's going on. Market open. Car titles are coming as well. Yeah. That's all part of tokenization. All part of tokenization. Market generally red, but looks like it has the ability to possibly trend up here. Tesla's opening pretty green, which is good to see. Let's take a look at this real quick.
Continued selling pressure. The S&P 500 off by about 0.4%. We were looking at a 2% decline yesterday. Clearly, there's still sellers in this market. You take a look at the NASDAQ 100 leading losses. Once again, the NASDAQ 100, your big tech names down 0.7%. And small caps, they also had a 3% decline yesterday on the Russell 2000. That index currently off by about 0.4%. And part of the reason things were so ugly was because of NVIDIA. We're taking a look at shares this morning after yesterday's 9.5% decline, currently down about 2% right now on a deepening antitrust probe into the chip makers' practices, with sources telling Bloomberg that the DOJ is looking into whether the company may be penalizing buyers that don't exclusively use its AI products. Shanali, another down day for NVIDIA at this moment.
Katie, I'm also looking at some movers, big movers, really, after a set of earnings last night, including security software firm Zscaler, which disappointed Wall Street. Its price target was lowered this morning by Wedbush, Piper Sandler, Jefferies, and Barclays. You now have Zscaler down more than 16% at the market open. Meanwhile, GitLab outperforming expectations as the software company deals with growing competition. You have GitHub really up more than 14% at the open. GitLab, sorry, Matt.
Thank you. Companies reporting this morning include Dick's Sporting Goods, which raised its forecast for sales and earnings, as well as Dollar Tree, which faces longer-term challenges as consumers pull back on spending and staying in retail. JW Nordstrom's, the founding family, has offered to buy its namesake department store chain for nearly $4 billion. But let's get back to the chip stocks leading the sell-off. For that, we turn to Bloomberg's Abigail Doolittle. Abby?
Yeah, phew. For a moment, I thought you were going to ask me to talk about these retailers, but we are talking about chips because yesterday was the worst day for the stocks for that Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, down more than 7%, the worst day since March 18th of 2020. That was the degree of the selling power, that fearful selling.
So I do think it's a little funny. It's like Nvidia selling off. Oh, it's taking the market, but it's up like 1,000% over the year. So I think most people with common sense would say, all right, Nvidia's ran so far. It's likely a pullback makes sense, but whatever. Firedog came in. Firedog actually commented on why the land registry is so important. He said, to sum it up, anyone can list properties and deeds to sell and even transfer without owners even knowing. A lot more to go into than this, but this is huge. I could find a property and the owner online, pretend to be the owner, just list a property, have a fake title company, find a local realtor, pretend to be the owner, and use the title company, which is me. Then sell to someone, escrow 10 to 20%, and then just file the paperwork to the city. It's really that simple. Real owner would never know. Wow, that's insane, Firedog. It's crazy that systems are really that inadequate right now. XRP dominance up. Is XRP dominance going up? I do see XRP is recovering a bit. It's hard for me to see. We'll take a look real quick. I'd be surprised if it was up anything significant, but okay, yeah, wow. It's always funny when like the market's sort of going down and then XRP dominance is like going up because like you don't expect it, but yeah, take a look at this. XRP dominance is increasing. Looks to be a potential breakout day, honestly, on XRP to dominance. So that's on the weekly chart. Appreciate you pointing that out. Let's take that's XRP to BTC. Let's take a look at XRPD. What's the ticker for XRP dominance? I've only ever looked at it I think it's XRP total. I don't yeah, I'm not sure what. Normally this chart does a pretty sufficient job. Yeah, Firedog, that's great insight. Really appreciate you sharing that. That's awesome to know.
$165 is the consensus number. Hopefully a little bit higher than that, but not too much higher, and certainly nothing below. So I don't think you have to wait long. We've got, I don't know, 47 hours until Friday jobs,
But
then I
who's
think you might
counting,
get something
Alex?
there.
You know, I think the reason it's important, you know, as journalists here, we are shown to follow the money. And at the end of the day, I think it's important to think about who was really burned in August, how much money is going to be put to work when the opportunities really do arise, how much dry powder is sitting on the corner in order to drive this market meaningfully higher.
Well, there's 6 trillion odd in money markets. And I think that if you are in money markets today because you are spending on something in the near term, fine. If you're in money markets today because you're nervous, your return that you've been quoting the last 2 years that's been terrific, it's about to disappear. We get the Fed meeting in 2 weeks. It's highly likely that there's at least a 25 basis point cut, another in November, another in December. That's our view. Some in the market are even more optimistic about how much they slice that rate down. So if you're in money markets, enjoy it while it lasts, clip your last statement, frame it, because it's about to go away. And that's where the opportunity is, to come back into the market, to revisit risk assets of all types, from long duration intermediate bonds, all the way out to equities, all the way out to some private market investments.
What kind of equities do you want, Alex? Because it looks like the problem here is that these mega cap tech stocks have maybe run a little too far, too fast. At least in the case of NVIDIA, that looks like the issue. Earnings growth is slowing down for the Mag 7. Meanwhile, the S&P 493 is finally posting a profit compared to, 6 quarters in a row of an earnings recession. So
Mark Cuban just tweeted out for John Deaton, which is very cool.
Now, you might be a little late. We've been talking about the forgotten 493 for a year now. And so thrilled to hear you mention 493. There is still an opportunity. There's an opportunity in healthcare. There's an opportunity in staples. Some non-tech cyclical.
Yeah, Roger, you're exactly right. What I've been talking about how interest rates coming down are going to lead to money flowing out of money market funds and hopefully into the market, which is exactly what they were just talking about there. It's kind of cool to see other people kind of coming in and talking about those things, because obviously no one can predict the future, but for me to be able to align myself kind of with what a lot of these other people are thinking, at least shows me that I believe we're probably on the right path in terms of our thinking around this. Deaton did win. Deaton did win the Republican nomination, not against Elizabeth Warren. So he still has to beat Elizabeth Warren, which is going to be a tall task. But if anyone can do it, it is certainly going to be Deaton. Looks like the market's kind of trending back up here. Looks like the Dow Jones is going up, which is good. It seems like another flat day. We talked about this earlier. The market's waiting on job numbers Friday. That's what they were just talking about. It looks like the VIX is going down, though. Let's take a look at this real quick.
Days a week for us to win. And I do think that placing, having an allocation outside of the Magnificent Seven, or some names in there that you think are interesting, maybe not all of them are interesting, frankly, I think you're going to end up in a much better place a year, 2 years, 3 years from now. Some of those names, by the way, are tech and are AI related. A lot of the chip makers have run significantly, but what's an interesting opportunity for the next chapter could be those AI infrastructure players, the power generators, the cooling agents, a lot of the companies that really fuel the AI ecosystem that are the non-chip players. Those are still very interesting today.
Alex, what about energy? What about materials?
It's so funny to me, like energy, materials. It's like, to a certain degree, it's like, don't you think like you would have already kind of found those things? Like, I don't know. It's a funny way of investing. I understand why some people do it. It's like, oh, you got to go on whatever industry's hot. I just think it's so much easier to try to find a technology that's going to be significant and invest accordingly into that technology rather than trying to play these cyclicals. Oh, now it's materials. Now it's energy. That seems like a tiresome way to do it. It looks like XRP is recovering pretty nicely here. So that is good to see. I will pull that up in 2 seconds and then kind of share screen. All right. So yeah, so XRP right now is kind of creating this bottoming formation here, which is nice, especially after this big wick downward. like we talked about earlier, we are at the bottom of a range, and we would like to see XRP continue kind of moving sideways here. That would be the perfect scenario. I think we are dipping to snag leverage longs. Could be a double tap a little lower to completely wipe them out. XRP to BTC looking solid. I agree, Dave Nelson. Shorts are winning, but they will stop shorting soon. That's when the move happened. Shorts will. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for the market right now is the market just needs to understand that we're going to escape the current time period without some kind of massive recession. So it seems to me like we do have the capability to do that, but it's all about execution now. And I think the market's just going to be trading cautiously until we get confirmation that we can escape some kind of global recession. All right, guys, with that said, we are going to close it down. Appreciate you guys all for coming. We're getting better and better at this at each day. Hopefully, no technical issues tomorrow, but all in all, today wasn't too bad. We got most of things working. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your day. Really appreciate everyone for showing up. Obviously, things haven't been extremely exciting recently. There's kind of been a lack of news, but I think all of that is going to change very soon. Big date is October 7th for now. And then up until then, we're going to be monitoring a lot of these smart contract discussions very closely because those are going to be very important to the network. Guys, thank you so much for coming. You guys are all incredible. And for now, Mickle out.